One of the things you can do with objects and object-oriented programming is you can do biological modeling. So imagine I wanted to create a model of trees or plants and predators. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to make a few blocks that I know I'm going to need to use. One of them is going to be the go random location. So go random. And I'm going to say that he's going to go somewhere between negative 150 and 150, as opposed to negative 200. I'm going to use 150 this time. I just want the field to be a little bit smaller. So negative 150 and 150. And I'm going to duplicate this. Okay. Control, duplicate, put one here, put one here. Okay, so I've created a function called goRandom. Okay, that's a movement function. I'm also going to create a variable called plants. So this is the number of plants that exist. All right, and first thing I'm going to do is when I click on this sprite here, I'm going to, or when the thing is started, I'm going to set my variable plants to 0. Set plants to 0. Good. Now I'm going to create a new sprite, and this is going to be my plants sprite, and I'm going to make it green because plants tend to be green. I'm going to make a little solid circle here. That's my plant sprite. I'm going to center it. Okay. So I've got this little plant. Now what I'm going to do is when this guy starts, so when the thing is clicked, he is going to change plants by 1, and he's going to create a clone of sprite 2. Actually, I should rename sprite 2 plants, or plant. He's a plant. Okay, and whenever he is clicked, he's going to create a clone of plant. Or actually, whenever the green flag is clicked. So here's what we've got. Set plants to 0, change plants by 1, create a clone of plant. So let's see if that happens. And now we've got 1 plant. Okay, and actually we had 2 because we had our original plant that we made. So now we've got 2, even though it says 1. Don't worry about that for now. And if I hit stop, that guy will disappear. So what am I going to do with my plant? So let's take a look at here. When I am created as a clone, when I start as a clone, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to a random location, and then I want to make another clone of myself, or I want to keep cloning myself. So maybe I want to, just keep cloning. Let's see what happens. So repeat forever and create a clone of myself. Okay, now this is going to be a problem, so I better save this before I move on. File, save as, because I think this might crash my little program here, but I'm going to call this project 6 biological systems. All right, now here we go. We're going to see what happens. Okay, up come all these plants, and pretty soon it's going to just have a gazillion plants. All right, now I've noticed a few things. One is that my plants number never increased. So whenever a plant is created, I need to increase the plant number by 1. Change plants by 1. Okay, so now let's see what happens now. Okay, so plants is going to go up a lot. And now we've got just a whole bunch of plants. These are all clones of the original plant. And we've got a ton of plants. Okay, we ended up with 5,688 plants in a big hurry. Now, one thing that's true about biological systems is there's only a certain number of plants that can survive in a given area. So what I better do is I better check to see if there are too many plants. So what I'm going to do is, even when I start as a plant, when I start as a clone, if the number of plants is too high, then I'm going to kill myself. It sounds very dramatic, doesn't it? So if the number of plants, if plants is greater than, okay, if plants is greater than, let's call it 50 plants, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete myself. Delete this clone. So now we should end up with a max of 50 plants. Let's see what happens. Okay, stop. Okay, and click. Okay, so this number keeps increasing, but there are only 50 clones here. So why is it still increasing? Because I forgot something. I forgot to say that when you delete the plant, you also need to stop counting. So, or you need to delete the number as well. So we're going to change our variable by -1. Change plants by -1. All right, let's see what happens now. Okay, we ended up with 57 plants. Now you may ask yourself, why did we end up with more than 50 plants? It's because it's trying to do all these things at once. And so sometimes it loses count slightly. It's okay, it's around 50 plants. All right, so we've got 50 plants here. Do we actually have 50? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Looks like we only have 20 plants. But there could be some on top of each other. So, and it's still running, by the way. This thing is still going. But we have a finite number of plants. So that's really good. Now, one criticism I have is that really nothing lives forever, but this plant lives forever. You see this forever thing here? So what I really should do is I should say, look, try to make a certain number of clones of yourself, but then die, because nothing lives forever. So go ahead and repeat, let's say 10 times, create a clone of yourself, but then after you've lived for 10 generations of creating a new plant, delete yourself, okay? And when you delete yourself, you have to change plants by -1. Change plants by -1. And delete yourself. Now let's see what happens. Okay, so we've got these plants showing up. And you can also see plants are dying. And it sticks around 50. This is really what I was looking for. Plants are dying after they try to create 10 new plants of themselves. So they kind of age and die. And we end up with this biological system of a certain number of plants going into different places. Okay? And we can see how many plants there are. But this isn't a very interesting biological system because it's just plants. What would be really interesting is if we also had something that was kind of hunting the plants. So let's see if we can create that. So to do this, we're going to create a new sprite. And our new sprite is going to be red for a hunter. And here we are. That's kind of a pinkish. Where's red? Come on. I want red. There we go, like red. And here's our little hunter guy. Again, we have to center him. And here's what he's going to do. So he's going to have slightly different rules. When he is created as a clone, when I start as a clone, I am going to repeat something a number of times. I'm going to repeat my cycle also 10 times. But my cycle is going to be this. Go to random. Just move to a random place. So he's just going to flash around. But the other thing that's going to happen is when he is touching a plant, I want him to create a new one of himself. So check this out. When I start as a clone, I'm going to do something forever. And what I'm going to do forever is where's my forever? Forever, here we go. I am going to be sensing whether I am touching if I am touching a plant, then I'm going to clone myself. Create a clone of, I better call this sprite something other than sprite 2, which is herbivore. He eats plants. Okay, so create a clone of herbivore. And after he does his bounce around 10 times, he is going to delete himself when I start as a clone. All right, now we need to make sure that some of these clones are created. So create a clone of plant, and last is create a clone of herbivore. So let's see what happens now. Okay, so let's stop this, move him over here, and so we've got these plants, and we've got an herbivore, and the herbivore just duplicated. Do you see that? Because he landed on another plant. More herbivores are showing up. They're eating more and more plants. And do you see how the herbivore population is increasing a lot? There are a lot of herbivores now. They're eating all the plants. Holy moly, do we have a lot of herbivores. And they should be gobbling up the plants. Also notice how slow it is right now. It's really slowed down because the program is doing a lot of thinking. It's got to track many, many herbivores and many, many plants. You can see that the herbivores have just gone absolutely crazy. They've kind of taken over, right? There's really no room for plants. And there are very, very few plants left. And look what happened. Everybody disappeared. Everybody died. Why did everybody die? The reason why everybody died is because the herbivores ate all the plants. So we need to do something for when I start as a clone, if touching plant, create a clone, okay. And plant needs to be if touching, I need to do something where if touching herbivore. So when I start as a clone, when I start as a clone, forever, if sensing, touching, if touching herbivore, then go ahead and decrease my variable by 1, change plants by -1, and delete the plant. So in other words, if the herbivore lands on me, he's going to eat me and destroy me. And now I need to go to Control, delete this clone.